two men suspected of murdering the prominent Dutch journalist Peter R. de Vries. He was shot at close range in Amsterdam last year and died 9 days later.
Minutes ago, a former FBI agent confessed to betraying his friend Peter R. de Vries. He was known around the world for his courage and dedication to uncovering the truth. He gained fame and put himself at risk by investigating the Freddy Heineken kidnapping. Facing threats from some of Europe's most dangerous criminals, one wonders how far he was willing to go for the truth. Tune in to discover the story of a man who risked it all for justice. Peter R. de Vries' impact on solving crimes. He was more than just a crime journalist. He stood for justice and truth, not just in the Netherlands, but in other parts of the world too. Over the course of many years, he became known for going after criminals without giving up, solving cases that had been cold for a long time, and always making sure victims had a voice. Because of this, many people see him as one of the most important figures in Dutch media history. But just as his fight for justice reached its peak, a sudden twist left the world holding its breath. He was born on November 14, 1956, in Aalsmeer, a town near Amsterdam. From a young age, he showed an interest in both journalism and justice, two things that would become the foundation of his career. He got his start in journalism in 1978, working for the daily newspaper De Telegraaf. This is where he sharpened his investigative skills, writing stories that uncovered crime and corruption. In the 1980s, he gained even more recognition when he started covering the kidnapping of Freddy Heineken, a famous Dutch beer magnate, and his driver. This high-profile kidnapping happened in 1983 and got the whole country's attention. He wrote a book about the case called The Kidnapping of Freddy Heineken, which later became a successful movie. This case helped him become one of the most well-known crime reporters in the Netherlands. However, his work wasn't limited to writing. He became a familiar face on Dutch television, often appearing to talk about crime-related topics, making him a household name. His real focus, though, was always on the victims. Whether it was the case of Natalie Holloway, an American student who went missing in Aruba, or the tragic homicide of 11-year-old Nicky Verstappen in the Netherlands, he was determined to find the truth and bring some peace to the families who were suffering. Beyond the Heineken kidnapping, he played a crucial role in solving some of the most difficult criminal cases in the Netherlands. In 2008, he earned an International Emmy Award for his investigative work on the disappearance of Natalie Holloway. This case gained a lot of media attention worldwide, and he helped bring even more attention to it. Through undercover operations and interviews, he revealed many gaps in the stories of key suspects, especially Joran van der Sloot, a Dutchman suspected of being involved in Holloway's disappearance. In early 2021, he agreed to become the legal advisor for Nabil Bakali, a former gang member who turned into a key witness against Taghi's criminal organization. Bakali's testimony was essential to the prosecution's case against Taghi, but the stakes were incredibly high. Before he stepped in, Bakali's brother had already committed a homicide, and his lawyer, Dirk Wiersum, had been assassinated in 2019. He knew how dangerous this case was, but decided to stand by Bakali, offering him legal support as the trial moved forward. By helping Bakali, he became a prime target for the crime organization. Taghi's group was known for its ruthless tactics, and anyone who posed a threat to their business was at risk. Despite the clear danger, he refused to back down. Even though it was risky, he chose not to have police protection, believing he could continue his work safely. As de Vries took on bigger risks, one final battle changed everything. The high cost of exposing crime in the Netherlands. On July 6, 2021, he was shot on a busy street in Amsterdam just after leaving a television studio. The 64-year-old journalist was hit 5 times, including one fatal shot to the head. People nearby were horrified as he collapsed on the sidewalk. He was rushed to the hospital where he fought for his life for 9 days, but sadly on July 15th he passed away. A former FBI agent reflected on his long friendship with a colleague, expressing deep sadness over his involvement in the assassination. He admitted to not wanting to participate in the act, which highlighted the internal conflict he experienced. This incident underscored the personal toll and the dangers associated with their work in tackling organized crime. This wasn't just a shocking moment for the Netherlands, it sent waves of fear through the country and even the world. He was well known for his brave reporting and his work on big criminal investigations. Over the years, he had received many threats, but he never let that stop him. He even turned down offers for police protection, believing he should be able to work freely without fear. It soon became clear that his homicide was likely linked to his involvement in the Marengo trial, where he was advising Nabil Bakali, a key witness against Ridwan Tahi, one of Europe's most dangerous crime bosses. This connection showed the extreme risks faced by people who dared to challenge powerful crime organizations. The reaction was strong. Prime Minister Mark Rutte and other leaders called the homicide an attack on free journalism. Across the country, people expressed their sadness, with thousands gathering to lay flowers where he was shot and attending memorials. Around the world, human rights groups and journalist organizations condemned the homicide and called for more protection for reporters. His fearless work and determination to find the truth continue to inspire many people. His death has become a symbol of the fight for press freedom, especially when facing organized crime. Though his life was cut short, his legacy lives on as a reminder of the importance of standing up for justice, even when it's dangerous. The investigation into his homicide moved quickly. 2 men were arrested shortly after the shooting, a 21-year-old Dutchman believed to be the gunman and a 35-year-old Polish man who drove the getaway car. Both were charged with homicide. Investigators suspected that his assassination was connected to the Marengo trial, where he was advising Nabil Bakali, a key witness. Authorities believed this was a message from Ridwan Taghi's criminal group, warning anyone cooperating with the law that they could face deadly consequences. The homicide highlighted the growing power of organized crime in the Netherlands and raised alarms about how far these groups would go to silence their enemies. The trial for the suspects began in October 2021, but the investigation didn't stop there. Authorities continued looking into deeper connections between the suspects and the criminal network behind the assassination. The homicide sent a chilling message to the justice system and the media. Whether you're a lawyer, a journalist, or a witness, standing up against organized crime could cost your life. This showed the need for stronger protections for those brave enough to take on criminal organizations. The death of him was a significant moment in the fight against organized crime and for the safety of journalists in the Netherlands. His homicide made it clear just how dangerous it is for people who uncover criminal activities and stand up to powerful crime networks. After his assassination, there were many new calls to improve security for journalists, especially those who are involved in risky investigations. But that wasn't the worst part. The fact that he, a well-known figure, could be targeted highlighted the growing boldness of these criminal groups. Despite the sadness surrounding his death, he left behind a powerful legacy. His work continues to inspire journalists around the world who are determined to uncover the truth and seek justice, no matter the risks. He was known for solving difficult cases, exposing criminals, and supporting victims. His influence remains strong in the fight for press freedom, journalist safety, and the ongoing battle against organized crime. His assassination shook the entire country. Dutch authorities and citizens have since increased efforts to protect those involved in sensitive criminal cases. New discussions about improving witness protection and journalist safety began after his homicide exposed weaknesses in the current system. But more than these policy changes, the most powerful lesson from his life is that the pursuit of justice, though dangerous, is something worth fighting for. In a world where criminal organizations are growing stronger and freedoms are under threat, his life stands as a symbol of hope and resilience. He refused to be intimidated and was fully dedicated to his work, reminding us all that the fight for justice, even when dangerous, is critical for a healthy democracy and a safe society. His life and death show the incredible power of investigative journalism to hold the powerful accountable and give a voice to those who don't have one. Through his impressive career and tragic death, he continues to inspire journalists, activists, and ordinary people alike, reminding us all that while the price of truth can be high, the cost of staying silent is even higher. The death of him on July 15, 2021, was a heartbreaking moment for the Netherlands and far beyond. His assassination wasn't just an attack on a journalist, it was an attack on the very idea of free speech and truth. The violent nature of his death shocked the country, revealing just how dangerous it has become for those who take a stand against organized crime. His death showed that these criminal organizations have become more fearless, ready to do whatever it takes to silence anyone in their way. After his death, the impact of de Vries's work spread far and wide.
Journalists investigating potential abuses of power are not a threat, but an asset to our democracies and our society.
The homicide of Peter R. de Vries and its ripple effect. In the days following his assassination, a deep sense of mourning and outrage swept across the Netherlands. Thousands of people gathered in Amsterdam and other cities to lay flowers, light candles, and pay tribute to a man who had dedicated his life to justice. His homicide wasn't just seen as an attack on a single person, but as an assault on the nation's core principles of free press and democracy. Journalists, politicians, and members of the public all voiced their horror at the homicide and their fear that organized crime was becoming a greater threat than ever before. He had dedicated his life to seeking justice. But as time went on, it became clear that he was up against a powerful and violent enemy. His homicide wasn't just heartbreaking for his family and friends, it was a serious wake-up call for other journalists and whistleblowers standing on the front lines, exposing the truth about organized crime. His death was a chilling reminder of how dangerous this work could be. His assassination revealed just how risky it had become to be a journalist, especially those who challenged powerful criminal organizations. In the Netherlands and across Europe, drug cartels and criminal gangs had been growing stronger for years. But his homicide marked a turning point. It showed that even countries like the Netherlands were not safe from the kind of violence that usually targets journalists in countries riddled with corruption and crime. One of the key reasons he was targeted was his role in the Marengo trial, a high-profile case against Ridouan Taghi, a feared crime boss. He was advising a key witness, Nabil Bakali, which put him directly in the path of danger. Being connected to this case was incredibly risky. His death came after the assassinations of Bakali's lawyer and brother, making it clear that anyone linked to the case was in serious danger. Over the years, he had worked on many dangerous cases, exposing cold cases, corruption, and organized crime. His courage and determination made him a lot of enemies in the criminal world. Even though he received constant death threats, he refused to let fear control him. He continued his fight for truth right until the end. His homicide showed just how far these criminal groups would go to keep their power. The homicide of him sparked new conversations about press freedom and the protection of journalists. The people of the Netherlands had to face a harsh truth. Organized crime had become more daring, and the systems meant to protect those who fought against it weren't enough. Journalists, lawyers, and witnesses involved in criminal cases were facing more danger than ever, leading to calls for stronger protections to keep them safe. But this wasn't just a wake-up call for the Netherlands. His homicide showed a much bigger problem: the growing danger to journalists all over the world, especially those who investigate powerful criminal groups. Journalists in Europe and elsewhere who were working on sensitive cases now had to think twice about their own safety. His death pushed the media industry to take a hard look at how it handles the safety of reporters, and it made governments rethink how they protect those who risk their lives to uncover the truth. He represented the core values of investigative journalism: courage, determination, and a dedication to uncovering the truth, no matter how dangerous. His work wasn't just about telling stories, it was about fighting for justice for people who had been wronged. He brought attention to cases that might have otherwise been forgotten, from missing persons to dangerous crime syndicates. He used his platform to help victims and their families, often pushing the limits of journalism to make real change. But his assassination on July 15, 2021, was more than just a personal loss for his family and supporters. It was a harsh reminder of the dangers journalists face when they challenge powerful criminals. His death shocked the Netherlands and had an impact around the world, raising important questions about the safety of reporters, especially those working on dangerous stories. In a time when press freedom is under threat, his homicide highlighted the real dangers that come with exposing crime and corruption. Yet his death had another significant impact. It sparked a much-needed conversation about protecting journalists who risk their lives for the truth. Governments, organizations, and media outlets had to face the reality that the systems meant to protect these brave reporters weren't strong enough. Even in a country like the Netherlands, known for being safe and democratic, organized crime showed a boldness that many hadn't expected. His homicide revealed just how far these criminal groups are willing to go to keep their power, even in places that respect the rule of law. But this wasn't the worst part. What made things even more troubling was how his assassination highlighted the deep connections between organized crime and the legal system. His work with a key witness in a major trial put him directly in danger. After his death, there were stronger calls to improve security for both witnesses and the legal professionals who work with them. It was a painful reminder of how much more needs to be done to protect those involved in fighting crime. Even after his tragic death, his legacy lives on. The cases he worked on, like the homicide of Nicky Verstappen and the disappearance of Natalie Holloway, remain important and continue to influence investigations.
I'd like to dedicate this special award to her missing daughter, Natalie.
His tireless efforts led to breakthroughs, such as the arrest in the Nicky Verstappen case years after the crime. His commitment to these forgotten or neglected cases was one of the key features of his career. He also left a lasting impact on the legal protection for witnesses and journalists. His death brought attention to the need for stronger witness protection programs, especially for those involved in big criminal cases. His brave work, which often put him in harm's way, exposed how closely linked organized crime and the justice system can be. Most importantly, he will be remembered for his fearless courage. Despite facing countless death threats and constant danger, he never backed down. Even when his own life was on the line, he stood firm in his fight for justice. His famous quote, "On bended knee is no way to be free," perfectly sums up his belief in fighting for the truth without fear. This quote has become a symbol for those who continue his work, capturing the spirit of his remarkable career. Did Peter R. de Vries's pursuit of justice cost too much, or was his sacrifice necessary to expose the truth? Let us know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories.